You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
What is up, everybody? Well, guess what? Today is the day, and we're here with another Prosper in the Kingdom to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I'm your host, John Cleaver, with the ever awesome Wendy Lee. Wendy, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Glad to be here. Another week.
I know, right? And we're entering into one of my favorite seasons, fall. And I love fall. Don't like winter, but I love fall. And it has nothing to do with pumpkin spice, but it does have something to do with quarter zips because I am the quarter zip king. So just throwing that out there. But anyway, we've got some exciting stuff we're talking today. Wendy, what are we talking about today? Something everybody loves to do.
Pay taxes. Talking about taxes, right?
That's right. Woo! That's
Giving
right.
our money to the government.
That's right. Well, you know, some of us are fortunate enough to reside in states that have no state income tax, but we all get to pay the federal tax to the Internal Revenue Service, that big machine in DC that we all love. And the funny thing is, and this is a little joke for everybody, the IRS, you know how the government loves their acronyms, the IRS, if you take those two words together and don't put the space in between, THEIRS, it spells theirs, and they're going to figure out the way to get to your money and get it out of your pocket. So everybody focuses, yes. I know, right? Everybody focuses on building wealth and really looking at, I want to grow my money, but that's only half the equation, right? That's only one side of the coin. The other side really is all about taxation. How much do you actually get to keep?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are waking up to this to some degree, but we're going to spend some time today really simplifying it for everybody, for our listeners out there, and looking at the three ways that you're paying taxes. Tax now, tax later, tax advantaged. And if you understand these three buckets, you'll know more about wealth building than a lot of people actually on Wall Street, which is, I guess, sad to say, but that's what we're all about. Again, teaching you not only to grow that wealth, but to keep it. So let's jump in, Wendy. And what's the first tax strategy we're going to talk about?
Yeah, tax now. That's like the double dipping of the IRS. You ever hear when people are like, "You're taxed to buy this on the money that you earned that was taxed," right? And like there's multiple layers of taxing. But yeah, that first bucket is the tax now bucket. So it's the most common bucket people play in, right? Mm-hmm. This is when we're growing up, we're taught, what do you do when you save money? You put it in the bank, right? And you put it in a bank account and you get the savings account. Some people, have stocks and brokerage accounts. Anybody have crypto, right? Every single time that money grows, we are paying taxes on that money. And so these are taxes where you think about a savings account is you put your money in. And right now, some banks are giving you 3% interest, just saying. So, sometimes you can make a little bit of money in there, not quite outpacing inflation typically, but normally those are less than 1% that you're making on savings accounts. But when you put your money in, it's after tax, right? You've paid taxes on that money, put it in the savings account. And then what do you get at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year to file your taxes? A little 1099 that says, hey, you made $10.37. Now pay your taxes.
That's a tax bill. That's a tax bill.
It's a tax bill. Yeah. And so
that's one of the things,
go ahead.
No, that's one of the things that, a lot of people don't realize. And it's amazing how much we actually pay in taxation, whether it's sales tax, you look at your phone, your cell phone bill, there's a ton of taxes in there. I mean, so we get taxed on the money when we make it. We go and spend that money that's been taxed and we pay tax again on whatever we buy. And if that grows, you buy stocks or something like that, when it grows, and I'm talking about stocks outside of your 401k, things like that. We'll get to that, but it's crazy because you got to pay tax on that too. And it's all, all about trying to take as much money out of your pocket and put it into the, federal, state, and local coffers to do their projects and their pet projects. So it's probably, the least efficient way to build wealth, but it feels safe. It feels familiar. And we talk to clients all the time that, and ideally, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for every strategy for your money. Really, the question becomes, how do I become efficient so I can keep more of my money? And again, your income is like seed, right? Planting a garden or whatever. And if you end up eating a lot of that seed through buying stuff that you want, not necessarily need, well, that's going to be a waste of it. But also on the IRS, the state governments, the local governments, and things like that, they're going to take some of that seed too in the form of taxation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a crazy way to look at it. So sorry, I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Proverbs 21:20 says, precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. And we actually have the complete Jewish Bible version of that. It says, in the home of the wise are fine treasures and oil, but a fool quickly devours it. So basically, when you're living in that tax now bucket, if that's your only strategy, and we're talking about places that you put your money, if you're only in that tax now bucket, then little by little, your treasure is just being eaten away. And we talk about a couple different analogies, right, that help make this make sense. But one of those is like if you plant an apple tree in your backyard and you pay for the seed, you pay tax on the seed, right? You're not paying taxes on the apples. But then every time an apple grows, somebody comes and takes a bite and hands you what's left. That, you're always going to have these bitten into apples. You're never getting that full growth, the full fruit. So, like you said, time and place for everything. So there's, like we talk about an emergency fund, right? You want to have that in a nice, easily accessible, liquid place. And so savings account's great for that. But beyond that, it is not the way to grow wealth.
No. And then so that really takes us right into the second strategy. And this is what most people are familiar with. This is the tax later strategy, right? Basically you're kicking the can down the road and say, okay, well, I don't want to pay taxes today, so I'm going to end up, getting money. And there's all kinds of gurus and traditional financial advisors out there that, oh, your money can grow so much faster and things like that. Well, yeah, but you've also made a deal with the devil, the IRS, right? The fact that, go look at your 401k now. And if it's, I'm not talking about the Roth component. A lot of companies are now offering Roth components, but a traditional IRA or, your traditional 401k, 403b, whatever the case may be, TSP, about a third of that is not your money. Again, about a third of that is, and that's using today's numbers, about a third of that is the IRS's. Right. And that's not including your state, how much they want, depending on if you're in California, it's up to 13%. So you look at this and it looks attractive at first. And a lot of traditional advisors out there will say, hey, let's save money on your taxes. Let's put more in. And this happens a lot with entrepreneurs and self-employed, 1099 folks or solopreneurs. Let's save money on taxes and we're going to put it into a pre-tax account. They're not technically lying because you do save money on taxes this year. Yeah, exactly. So it feels good. You're thinking, okay, I'm paying a little less than Uncle Sam this year, but here's the problem. You're not escaping taxes. You're just deferring them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Meaning you've got to pull it out down the road. And that's when you're going to pay taxes. So here's really what I want everybody to think about. We're going to spend a little time on this tax later strategy. You look at the whole tax later strategy and, okay, I'm saving money on taxes today, but I do have to pay them down the road. So the question you need to ask yourself, knowing what you know, knowing what you see in, mainstream media or whatever news channel you're watching, do I think income tax rates are going to go down or go up by the time I hit retirement in the next, 10, 20, 30 years? What do you think the answer would be, Wendy?
I would say it depends on who's president, but most likely they're going up.
I don't care who the president is, right? The tabs come and due. You look at, I can honestly remember when I was, early in my career, and everybody was freaking out that the government was going to go broke. They've got to raise the debt ceiling, blah, 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 blah. And that's when we were at 11 trillion.
Mm.
We blew by that and blown by the next one. And it's happened a couple of times. And if you're, if you've got a little seasoning in your hair, you'll know what I'm talking about. But now I think, I haven't even looked at it now, but I know we're over 33, 34 trillion.
Mm.
And it's not going down, it's going up. There's a debtclock.org. You go to that website, and we'll put a link in the chat, but it's going up like, like time travel. It's crazy, right? So eventually that bill, that ticket, that is going to come due, right? Somebody's going to have to pay that. And the only way you're going to pay it is either through, dilution of the dollar, which we've done that, through quantitative easing, which is a fancy way to say, hey, we're printing more money, so the money you have left in your wallet is going to be worth less.
Yeah.
Worthless? No, worth less. That's right. That's the word I'm looking for. And then also looking at, what's going to happen with the tax rates,
Mm-hmm.
right? So are they going to go up, go down? And, like you said, and a lot of people say, well, it depends on who's in office. I completely disagree, because eventually something's going to happen to where we can't.
I mean, the history of our country, we pay taxes, right? And we pay income tax, and it's just the way it's been. I think, right now there's ideas that that's going to be done away with, but even if it is, I don't believe that would stick. And so, so they're going to be, and that's the thing, is I never understood this. I never thought about that, because I was always in the corporate days told, put your money away pre-tax, because then it grows and you haven't taken taxes out, right? Defer that tax, get a tax break now. But I'm like, it's totally like, oh, we're doing a deal with the government and them not telling us their end of the deal till we get there.
Yeah.
So,
It's like saying, oh, I trust the government to treat me fairly in the future.
yeah.
I'm sure this fox will guard our hen house because he's got those sharp teeth. We'll be fine. Right. So it's one of those things that, I don't really buy into it. And the other thing, in the traditional advisory industry is kind of, I don't want to say in cahoots, but that's the mandate that they're told, right? Say everything pre-tax, and now you're starting to get more people talk about Roth. I think as people get educated, that post-tax strategy. But, you look at that and it's like, hey, wait a minute. You may have heard this too. If you're a listener, you may have heard, oh, you'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you won't need as much money in retirement, right? Because, you won't be doing as much, and your expenses, kids will be out of college. Okay, so first of all, let's get real here, folks. So number one, what is the most expensive day of your week? If you're working the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, the most expensive day of your week is probably going to be Saturday, right? Why? Because you're out doing the boating thing, the golfing, camping. You're doing the weekend, getaways, the trips with the kids, or whatever the case may be. Well, the funny thing about retirement is every day is a Saturday. Okay. Because you don't have to go into that. So you want to do the thing. So, that, combined with the fact that, guess what? You're probably not going to be as healthy. So your expenses are going to go up from a healthcare perspective. So you've got that on top of it. So, honestly ask yourself, do you really want to take a pay cut in your retirement years over your current lifestyle? I'm not saying give yourself a big increase. What do you think the answer is probably going to be?
No.
Of
to
course
retirement
not.
to live the good life.
Yeah, I want to go travel. I want to do the things that I wanted to do but couldn't because I had to work, in my cubicle farm. So, that's the big one. And, the whole thing about, oh, you'll be in a lower tax bracket. Whenever the tax codes change, and again, I'm 55 now. I've seen tax codes change over the course of my career. And what happens is they shift it around. They move the amounts and stuff like that. Okay, well, now if you're single, and they change it. It's like a shell game. And bottom line, they want theirs. They're going to try to figure out a way. And you'll have some go, oh, well, it's the Republicans are going to give all the breaks to the rich. Oh, it's, the Democrats are, not having anybody pay taxes except for the rich. Here's the end game, folks. look at it this way. The rich, they know the codes. They have teams of people showing them how to not cheat, but leverage the tax code. Okay. And that's what we're trying to teach you here today is how to leverage the tax code. The poor people out there, that bottom, the top 10% wealthy, the bottom 10%, they don't have the money to pay taxes. So they're not going to pay them. Okay. It's the middle class, folks, you and I, that are out there paying the most in taxes. And so you want to look for ways to reduce that. Number one is pay attention to what we're talking about today. Number two, you've heard us say this a number of times. Tax codes were written for employers, not necessarily employees. What does that mean? That doesn't mean go start up a massive corporation. Get a side hustle. Become a solopreneur, get something else so you can take advantage of some of those tax codes too.
Yeah.
But I'm going down a whole nother rabbit hole here. We'll have to do an episode on that. But again, kicking that can down the road is not necessarily a good idea. Now, can you do some of your money that way? Yeah, like Wendy said earlier, there's a time and a place for everything. And as we close, we'll kind of talk about that. So, looking at this, it's a good analogy, right? We don't know what the tax codes are going to be. So that would be like Wendy and I saying, hey, we want to go into business together. Okay. And she's like, oh, we're going 50-50. I'm like, well, no, we'll figure that out later. Let's just go into business, make it happen. And then I'll tell you what percentage I want down the road.
That would be a really terrible deal.
Who would do that? Well, hey, we're going under, Wendy, and there's a lot of bills here. So I'm just going to take 10% of the company. You take 90, but on the flip side of that, and this is more likely what's going to happen, right? The company is going to be massively successful. Wendy, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I want 80% of the company. We're going to do 20 because that's what we agreed to. We're going to split the company. And I told you, I'd tell you my percentage later. No way would you ever do that, right? No, but that's what we're doing.
We do it every day.
We kick the can down the road with the IRS. Again, I love my country, but I always got a raised eyebrow when it comes to the government, right? But again, you've got to educate yourself on this stuff. So, the Bible says to render unto Caesar what is his, and I have zero problem with that. I love the fact that we've got schools. I think we could be doing a lot better. I love the fact that we've got, first responders, things like that. I do scratch my head and go, at some of the spending. Doge was hot and heavy when they first came on the scene. I haven't heard a lot about them lately, but I want cuts, less government, lower government, let people live as they will. Let's focus on our elderly. Let's focus on our healthcare. Let's focus on our children. And let's focus on, building our infrastructure and making it a great place to live. So other than that, nothing bad, right?
Yeah.
All right. That was a whole nother rabbit hole. What's up next? What's the third option?
So this is the wealth builder's secret. This is what most people don't know about. And this is a third bucket we call tax advantaged. Yep. And this is what the wealthy are using to keep getting wealthier. It's funny. I go back to when people were talking about Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes, and I saw Robert Kiyosaki, who you and I both love his teaching. Robert Kiyosaki's like, because he's smart, right? Because he wasn't cheating. He was leveraging tax code. Robert Kiyosaki talks about it all the time, how to pay no taxes by leveraging the tax code. So a tax advantage strategy is the way that we teach people to do that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, it's, oh, well, I know that. That's not a secret. It's the Roth. Well, if that's all you're focused on, the Roth, you've seen the preview. Let's just put it that way. Going back to the tax later, right? The 401k, the self-directed IRAs, there's massive limits on what you can put in there every year. Why? The government's like, put as much money you want in that because we know we're going to get our money down the road. And we want you to build, and we're going to take as much taxes as we want out down the road. And there's nothing you can do about it because you've already made a deal with the devil. Oh, well, let's do the Roth strategy. Well, okay. From an IRS perspective, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount you can put in there. And if you make too much money, guess what? We're not even going to let you put money in there. Yeah. And so there's some severe limitations. But again, the tax strategy is great. I put in my post-tax dollars today. It grows tax-free, and I can take it out tax-free later, which is powerful. But again, if you're successful, if you're really, really I want all my money going in that, you can't do it through a Roth IRA because the limits and things like that. And so the next strategy is, well, what else is out there? Well, there's, we teach a concept called the family bank strategy, right? And there are no limits on what you can put in there. You can put, huge amounts. I've got clients putting in $10,000 a month into these strategies, meaning they take the tax bill today. And if you look historically at income taxes from an IRS perspective, we are at a historical low. Okay. The highest tax bracket today is nowhere near what the highest tax bracket has been. So think of that as, income taxes are on sale. Well, as the chickens come home to roost, so to speak, and all this 34 trillion, 35 trillion, I guarantee within the next decade, it's going to cost, maybe in the next 5 years, it'll cross 40 trillion. Just mark my words. But you look at that, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to keep my money? And this is where you look at alternative strategies, protected asset classes. Some people, have referred to LERPs, things like that. I like the family bank strategy. But again, you look at it as, okay, I can put my money in there, I can access it, but I don't have to pay taxes on it. I don't have to worry about that. Now, as Wendy said, there's a time and a place for everything. Well, why would I ever want to do any of the other options, John? Right? Well, I want the emergency fund. I want that money in 15 minutes, not 5 days from my brokerage account. I don't want to wait for the wire. I need to go get the money now, catch a flight, fix my car, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Well, this is where, you hear Dave and Susie talk about, well, start with $1,000 and then go to 3 to 6 months of expenses. We teach the same concept, right? They didn't invent that. It's common sense. Okay. $1,000 is going to cover most of your, 60% of your emergencies, but then you want 3 to 6 months of expenses based on, hey, I lost my job, some of the bigger ticket items, right?
Yeah.
Well, why would I ever want to do the tax advantage? Well, a lot of 401ks still offer matches. A lot are doing away with it. That's free money, right? That's like you walking out to your car to go to work and there's a $100 bill laying on the ground. You're going to pick it up. Wendy would, I would, right? That's free money. Get that free money. But then every dollar after that, I want to try to find ways where I'm putting my money where? Tax advantage, or what I like to call tax-free growth. Yeah, tax-free growth account. So, why this matters. You know what your tax liability is in the future. I don't care if taxes go up 3 times what they are today. I still owe 0. 3 times 0 is what? 0. Okay, so that's first. Second, I'm in control, not Washington, D.C., right? I know what is happening. I don't have to worry about Washington. And then lastly, I can use that money while I'm alive in some of the family bank strategy, especially, we like to teach wealth, not just retirement. Retirement is great. We want you to make sure you have money for your 70s and 80s and those sunset years, right? But we talk about wealth, and there's a huge difference. Why? We want to be able to access that money in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, tax-free, no penalty. Okay. And it's possible if you know what's going on, if you know how the game is played. And this is the stuff that the wealthy, and you know my story. I had the opportunity to be around some people that made way more money, had way more assets than I did. And they were generous and kind enough to kind of, hey, this is what we're doing, John. You might want to do it. So the next question I had was, well, these mechanics of these strategies work with any dollar amount going in. Obviously, the more you put into the garden, the more you're going to have come crop time. But you don't have to start out large. You can start out small. And again, these are some of the concepts we teach. So bottom line is, you look at where your money's going, and most people just focused on growth, rate of return. They don't look at, they don't look at market loss. They don't look at taxation.
They don't even consider taxation.
No, they don't watch their money. And, that's normal, right? Why? Well, I'm taking my kids to sports. I've got, my church group I'm meeting with. I'm doing some stuff. I'm taking night classes. I've got 2 or 3 jobs I'm trying to do this in. People don't have time, and they think that their advisor, their traditional advisor, is watching their money with it. No, it's called passive money management. They're out living their life too, on the golf course or whatever. They check your account once a quarter, once a year, and they tell you, oh, hey, you lost some money, but don't worry about it. We'll get it back next year. We'll get it. We'll go at it again next year. And that's really where you start looking about that's so inefficient and so 1900s, right? To use my younger kids' vernacular. So there are better ways, and that's what we're teaching you here. So what do we got in closing, Wendy? What I went on a little right there. So.
One thing I did want to mention is, because I hear this a lot, people really proud of themselves for maxing out their 401k. And so for anyone that is proud of themselves right now for maxing out your 401k, I would say set up a call with us and let us show you how you can get
max
more
out
money
your
back
income. Maxing out your 401k. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna call it what it is. That's a sucker's bet. I mean, there are a lot of people that are smiling when you say that because they're making a bunch of money off of you, and the IRS is one of them. Max out your match with your 401k. That be proud of, right?
Yes,
but that's even arguable as well. I mean, as far as growth strategies and the hidden fees and stuff of 401ks, there's a book out there I would challenge you to read called 401 Chaos that talks about really what's happening with the 401ks. And again, it's that's a conversation for another day. But kind of to close it out, I'm gonna issue a 3-bucket challenge, right? Every single dollar that you make should end up in one of three buckets. Okay. Either tax now, meaning I'm paying the taxes now, I pay the taxes later, and I keep running in circles, right? Tax later, it feels good today, but you're gambling on tomorrow's tax rates. But you can still be successful with some of your money in a 401k or a pre-tax account, right? But the key is when you go to pull that money out later, you only want to be at whatever the standard deduction is. So I think standard deduction is what, 26, 27,000, somewhere in there. So you want to pull that out in your retirement years, and then the rest needs to come from your tax-free, tax advantage account. That's where your money goes free and you actually get to keep it. So look at your money this week and ask yourself, which percentage of my money is in each bucket? And ask yourself, which bucket do I want it in? And if you're raising your hand saying, hey, I really want to look at some of these tax advantage accounts and, I want some help doing it. And if you want to, we're going to give you a free financial plan. Okay. So DM us, make a comment, and let us know, or reach out to us. You can go to our website, prosperinthekingdom.com. But again, let us know. We'll help you get the plan, do something with it or not. That's fine. There's no obligation or whatever, but at least then you know where you should be putting your money and what the gaps are in your wealth plan. Because I guarantee that there are so many of us, especially in middle America, middle class, don't look at this strategy, and we just kind of hope it all works out. We think we're putting money in the 401k, and is it enough? And you're going to get taxed to death. So, all right, what else we got, Wendy? Close us out.
Well, I mean, that's it. We've covered it. So yeah, get your roadmap, your free financial plan from us. Like John said, prosperinthekingdom.com. There's a button up on the top right you can click to get that, or safemoneyroadmap.com. And yeah, we met with clients just this week that were like, how come we never heard this before? How come we've never learned this before? So for me too, personally, it was just an eye-opening thing to really understand. And not enough people are talking about it. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us today for another Prosper in the Kingdom. So Wendy and John here every single week on Wednesdays to share tips to help you become more healthy, wealthy, and wise. And share this with friends, tag, like, subscribe, all the things. Help us grow this channel and get the word out.
That's right. And if you want to spin a sign, I'm going to try to bring the sign spinners back. If you want to spin a sign with Prosper in the Kingdom, I will actually buy you the sign. Just text us, let us know. So I'm going to put that challenge out there too. I'm just kidding. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you next week for another Prosper in the Kingdom. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.